Good morning. Hi. I thought I have taken a few days off. I've tried to keep up with basically what's going on. They have an mRNA vaccine. Great. Let's see what that vaccine might do. Considering this is a mitochondrial disease and mitochondria create messenger RNA or signal for it at the very least. So mRNA, I assume that's messenger. I haven't looked it up. Could be mitochondrial. Wouldn't surprise me. So the mitochondria are getting the leader 5-dimer leader viral RNA. So that goes into there, and this is a positive charge, and the mitochondria create the viral negative charge to pair with it. At which point, and the double vesicle membranes that the virus uses to spike up. So as that happens, so this is a complete RNA strand now. It's complete viral. It's plus and minus, and so it's complete. And we also have a double membrane vesicle that's come out. So we have a leader instructional RNA, a viral vRNA that has both charges thanks to the mitochondria. And also in the cell, there's a nucleolus. I don't know. It may have. I'm not sure where this vaccine is a messenger RNA vaccine, from my understanding. So this is the this is the cell. This is the nucleus of the cell, and there's all sorts of stuff hanging around. And oh my gosh, mitochondria come and go depending. They move closer and away, and the endoplasmic. There's a lot of interplay between mitochondria and what's going on in our cell all the time. Our cell is signaled and controlled and fueled and escorted and enlarged and destroyed by mitochondria. Mitochondria host us. They're tiny hosts, but they host us. It's like if your house got infested with ants, which is a bad thing, mitochondria is a good thing. It may not have been a good thing when it first started. And you know what? If the planet continues on in its glucose-driven, oxygen-destroying, planet-destroying, COVID-19 might end up being a very good thing for people who survive it. If there's no oxygen, let's be a happy hypoxic. If we can survive it, it'll work. If we could survive mitochondria millions of years ago, it worked. That's the choice we have to make right now. And I know there's science, I saw it at Johns Hopkins this morning, about how losing weight and reducing glucose, sugar, fats, food, eating all the time, reducing those things is the way to fight COVID. Because COVID is when we eat too much, we don't need our mitochondria. Our mitochondria kind of go out of business. Shops get decimated, decrepit, and they shut down, and they bring the whole neighborhood with them. The whole town, the cell. There are 2,000 mitochondria in a liver cell, I was told. I was like, ooh, I saw that in an article, empirically peer-reviewed article. I'm like, that's a lot of mitochondria in one cell. Now, in your arms and the twitch, the happy hypoxic, there's maybe one or two. There's very few because they're these twitch like bugs. That's not oxygenation. That is hypoxic. That's like, So there's, this dichotomy that oxygen fuels our most powerful self-actualized selves, slow and steady, slow and steady, slow and steady, but the piano plays itself. The film makes itself. The video does itself. The map makes itself. You can see it plants a lot of things at the subconscious level, instinctual level, personality level. It gets rid of the fear system. It gets rid of it. And fear is necessary in new environments. I just did a Proaxia follow-up from my week in Southampton. First going there, I was like, I ended up kind of being a little underwhelmed at the end of the visit because a Proaxic practice in a challenging environment builds us. Boom. We overcome it by breathing over it and kind of controlling the amygdala and becoming more, have a lot of prowess within the environment. Great. Now, up in Southampton, the environment is like, here it is. And I'm like, I found myself just not breathing initially. I mean, the resonance of the environment was so secure, so solid, so straightforward. I didn't have to do anything. I saw that in the culture too. People were just, didn't have to do anything. I don't know. I guess. That's a choice. You want to sit around and not do anything all day? Stuff? Or, is there value in learning to play that piano and learning to create that mosaic and learning to rollerblade gregariously and, bike at the, competitive level, but there's no contest. It's all good. It's all good. So, so that was a very, very interesting environment that I was able to study the oxygenation pattern in a very strikingly new environment. Strikingly new. I mean, live in Fairfax. It's the wealthiest, kind of plenty of that type of around. Now, when I lived in Baltimore for 3 years. In Baltimore, wow, you go through these poverty-ridden areas. You can't avoid them if you're leaving Johns Hopkins. I was at the central campus. You can't avoid going through those neighborhoods. There is like, oh my gosh, how do people thrive? It's hard to thrive in an area like that when it's so broken down. So there's, variations on a theme going here. So, okay, let's go back to this vaccine, just to give yourself a little break. I know it's hard to take in a lot of this stuff, but it's not impossible. You stay oxygenated, and, I'm trying to repeat a lot of the things I say enough so that if you oxygenate and go through these series, man, you can go beyond what I do in this science. That's how it's done. You stay oxygenated, you're not taking any fear. You're just learning a new language, following the dots, looking at the figures, appreciating the repetition when you see it. And it too will emerge on its own volition. This is self-actualization. I'm not privy to it. I've just kind of tried to demystify and formulate how to learn at a master level different topics or different subjects and skills, and as a evolving within a human lifespan, an adult evolving within a human lifespan. I'm so grateful to be able to share this with you. So let's get back to this vaccine. Here's our vaccine, which is a messenger RNA vaccine, from my understanding, which may indeed also be a mitochondrial RNA. That's what I would go for. If the leader virus is going into the mitochondria to create the leader RNA to steal and also make the double membrane vesicles, which I didn't even know the mitochondria were responsible for. It doesn't surprise me. The mitochondria have their own DNA and they create stuff for us. They manage our cell very efficiently if we oxygenate. We stay oxygenated and keep with the paradigm that evolution has established for us. So we have the double membrane vesicles, DMV, double membrane vesicles, and the viral RNA, which has paired with its negative, positive, and negative, so it's complete now. It's a double-stranded RNA. It comes in as a single strand. This is a single strand, and it comes out as a double. Then it goes into our nucleolus. I guess that's where we left off. Nucleolus, nucleus. Oh, gosh. And nucleolus, which is where the DNA is, from my understanding. And so the 3-dimer viral RNA, which I'm not quite sure what that does, but it's part of the package. So the 5-dimer, 3-dimer, and then that goes in and as a positive and gets a negative there. Whether the polar, I think these are both positive. So, and that's how this thing replicates. So it goes into the mitochondria, goes into the nucleolus of the cell to get its viral RNA, the 3-dimer, and this is the 5-dimer. Okay, and that's the leader RNA goes into the mitochondria, and the smaller one, the shorter one, goes into the nucleolus, where the nucleolus produces the matching pair, and so they come together as two. Meanwhile, there's something called the endoplasmic reticulum that usually kind of hangs out here and works with the mitochondria. All of a sudden, the mitochondria are down here and it's moving closer to the cell. That's a problem. And it destroys our cell. So the virus hijacks our mitochondria and our nuclear DNA and rips us apart, making copies of itself. Okay, so that's, from my understanding, the vaccine's going in with the messenger RNA, and I'm cool with that. I'm hoping maybe it maybe catches this viral RNA outside of the mitochondria. So what happens to the mitochondria when all of this is happening? From my understanding, these things are usually kind of bean-shaped, and they're very, in athletes, they stay this way. They're tight. What do athletes do? They run and oxygenate. They have lots of periods of primoxia. That's big oxygen, in pockets. And what I suggest is prooxic, to consciously oxygenate and understand how to do that in a very hypoxic world, in a very, plastic world. So to kind of fake an oxygenation system, but, understand that it's empowering. Even when you fake it, it's empowering. It's still fuel. So rather than run the car out of gas and fill up at the gas station, let's call this Shell, whatever, since I've been to the beach, and we think, well, I was going to top that tank up with one breath, top it up, keep it topped up, maintain an oxygen gradient, and then I don't need as much fuel. I don't need that kick. I am oxygenated. and I am activated. I talk about jumping rope. I got a friend jumping rope last week. Wow, what a transformation. A couple things happened that I noticed in her. She didn't want to eat as much. She refused the M&Ms. She refused the fatty food. Because you jump that rope and the whole system goes boom, and the brain goes, hello, wake up, physiology, activate. And if you breathe before you do that jumping rope, you've established an oxygen gradient for everything that is oxygenated will respond to that wake up call. Great. Okay. I don't want to get too complicated, but just breathe and hopefully you trust what I'm saying by now. Okay, so this is a healthy mitochondria and oxygen's coming in and it's calcium's going out and manganese is doing its thing inside and the electrons are coming and the electrons are going and coming and going. Well, in COVID-19, which is very glycolytic, glycosis, when you see a glycolated this or gly this, G-L-Y, that means there's glucose. It's a glucose problem. If you see oxidant, right? That's an oxygen problem. Hypoxia, oxy. So that's a low. That's too much glucose and not enough oxygen. So when you see something that's gly, that's too much glucose. When you see something that's oxy, that's usually oxidant, is a consequence of low oxygen, not of more oxygen, of low oxygen. Antioxidants, antioxidants, no oxygen. Hypoxia, hypodermic, low, under oxygen. Okay, so the mitochondria in COVID-19 are bulging at the seams. They're bulging so much that these, due to hypoxia, it's a hypoxemia. That's like anemia. Hypoxemia. Low oxygen, fatal low oxygen. So these electrons aren't being exchanged like they should. And it's in the exchange of oxygen, of electrons, that we get our fuel, human budget. Oxygen comes in, a healthy mitochondria, electrons are going back and forth like crazy because there's electrons are coming and going and adding and losing. And the byproduct of this is fluid. Which is very interesting. I'd be curious to know what's going on with the fluid levels in these COVID-19 folks. And other things we've talked about. The mitochondria control the copper, orchestrate it to maintain all this function. Copper protects function. Well, there's no function, so copper builds up more and more equals blood clots. Blood clots. Oh my God, sorry folks. Other things we've talked about. The zinc is locked away in special storage areas, often at the synaptic ends, postsynaptic. So if something comes in here and it doesn't have enough energy to get over, this thing goes out of business and zinc is released. All right, that's into that. But when we're not even getting the signal, zinc is not released. Signals are cut off and zinc is not released. And when you have no zinc, low zinc, you get these lesions, especially in the feet. All right, so that's how I see it. That's the information that I have as I understand it. So a healthy mitochondria looks like this. A COVID mitochondria looks like this. Fat engorged with electrons. right? Engorged with nothing's getting loose. Why? Because this positive viral RNA wants that negative charge. I don't know exactly how and why all the electrons are not. And when there's oxygen that binds with this oxygen, is part of the thing that releases the electrons. Oxygen is part of the process that releases the electrons. They're just bulging, and this thing is bulging out, and it's non-functional. That's what happens, from my understanding, to our mitochondria. So that's a lot of scribbling, and I need a bigger whiteboard. I probably need one of these electronic things. But so that's where we're at with COVID, it seems. Cases are going up. They're not going down. Strategies to understand and mitigate the problem may or may not help, Millions of years ago, oxygen flooded our planet. And small little batches of cells incorporated with what I believe is our mitochondrial ancestors, Gallionella, bacteria. And of course, bacteria fusion, what do you call it? They split in half. And that's exactly what our mitochondria do. And when this is surrounded by water, it maintains this little bean shape, just like the shape of our mitochondria. And it takes oxygen, and it uses solar power and produces nuclear level fuel. And Gallionella is made from iron. We have a lot of that. We know that. Manganese, nobody talks about that except me, it seems. Take manganese. I believe that will help. Manganese splits oxygen out of water. That's what it does. So mitochondria need oxygen. Manganese splits oxygen out of water, but and that's in emergencies. But the cell stops. It's challenging, and the oxygen, right? This is Gallionella. Okay. So, and in this process, this is millions of years ago. There's a big change. Big change when mitochondria co-localized with our evolving cells. Sound familiar? In light of and that was when oxygen was the biggest thing, most important thing. And then there was a lot of water on the planet too. We needed that. And food was kind of hard to find sometimes. We can live weeks without food. The ones who could live without glucose turned into us. Now we've reversed that. Now it's big glue. We eat all the time. It's the water is hard to come by. We get it through food if we eat well. Those people aren't getting COVID. We're getting our thing, and the oxygen we're stressed out. Let's face it, we are stressed out. So COVID is CV-19 is a glycolytic glucose disease. This is an proxic disease, proxic disease. We are a proxic product as humans evolved. We changed that. We know that. We've talked about that. And we have laid the environment for COVID to move in. And so that's the long and short of it. that COVID-19, as I see it, is moving in on our hypoxic, low oxygen, grossly glycolytic world to co-localize with us, and it's mutating. How is it mutating? It's getting freaking everywhere really quickly, and the death tolls are lower. So it's learning how to adapt to us. Just like mitochondria, Gallionella learned how to adapt to us. I'm sure there were a lot of fatalities when Gallionella made its move. I mean, this is hypothetical, but it's theoretically based. It's grounded. It's very where there's causation, all you find is evidence. So when Gallionella made its move, where is it going to make its move? On the things that were already tending towards oxygen, the things that had already adapted to oxygen. This little worm or that little snake or this little whatever. And so what's going to, in the process of Gallionella, which also mutates very rapidly, Gallionella is highly mutates quickly. Those mutations probably had it had to mutate through things that were already oxygenated. Just like there are a bunch of people now who are glycolytic and low oxygen. And low oxygen. And I'll say these things were high oxygen and low glycose, right? Low G. And these are high glucose and low oxygen, right? So this COVID's moving in, right? On the things that it works best with. Works best with the glycolytic, and they're popping them off as it mutates. This equals a mutation. And this popping off this is also mutation. And there we have it. So here we are millions and millions of years later, evolved from oxygen. And here we are now devolving. Well, I can assume that, all the I don't know. Maybe we are evolving. I shouldn't presume that we are de-evolving. If we're evolving, we're a glycolytic planet. And the COVID-19 is mutating to accommodate. It's becoming less toxic. More pronounced, more contagious, much more contagious. The likelihood that we're all going to get it is looking pretty obvious. So the triage they're saying is become less glycolytic so you don't get it. Well, where does that leave us at the end of the day? Where does that leave us at the end of the day? I'm going to go ahead and go a little further. You know what? Because, it's a glycolytic disease. Yeah. Where does that leave us at the end of the day? So everybody goes back to school in the fall and all the industry starts back up and the world stays low oxygen. The planet continues to destroy and we just eat our blinks out. And we try to fix all the things that are hypoxic through medicine, even this mRNA. Even if we get a vaccine that's a messenger RNA, a VAC, we get that, we stay glycolated, and we continue to take out the oxygen supply of the planet. And COVID has successfully integrated into our world. All right? Yay! No. But it's not toxic. It doesn't kill people anymore. People who get it happy hypoxia all day, every day, but very surface thinking, no real deep plants. It's kind of hydraulic planting. There's no soil there. Nutrients or whatever you give it through medicine. Da 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 da. This thing is changing the course of our evolution because of what we've done with the planet. This is the choice. This is the turning point for us. What happens over here? Okay, some of us do everything we can not to get it. We don't get it. We don't. We shelter out. Maybe up in the Southampton, they figure out how to shelter out. They better learn how to do their fix their own cars and such. But they manage, and they don't get it. They stay in the oxygen-rich situation, and very few overweight people up in the Hamptons, I'll say. I was just up there last week, right? So very few. It's still at the proportionality we need it to be, right? And so glucose is a smaller thing up there. And I know they definitely drink plenty of alcohol, and I'm sure they chase it down with water. So they stay glycolytic. They stay oxygenated, and these adapt to the virus. So this is an oxygen, and this is the COVID. Well, guess what happened millions of years ago? Okay, that's today. This is today. Guess what happened millions of years ago? As far as I can see and tell, there are animals like maybe bats, but I definitely know like the naked mole rat. The insects, I think, are not real oxygenated. They get it through their skin. It just still diffuses through their skin. Back here, it diffused through the skin. Frogs and such. And I believe that roaches and things breathe through their skin. I may be wrong, but I think that I remember that. And so like the naked mole rat can go for weeks without oxygen. Things can go to the bottom of the ocean and just hibernate with almost no low oxygen. So, and the mitochondria are very different in here if they even, mitochondria adapt to these things too. So anyway, my concern is that we are going to be the suboptimal species. You know what I'm saying? So COVID is can make us a new species. We have to understand what that species is. Do we want that? Do we want to be a happy hypoxic, just surface knowledge, surface information, bits, bytes? Or do we want to maintain this evolution, oxygenated, evolved enlightenment? That's all. All right, I think that's all I can say. That oxygen brought us to the point where we became, say, 200 years ago. Industrialization has shattered a bit of that evolution. COVID is moving in on our happy hypoxic. Food is fuel. Status quo. And looks like it's here to stay. It mutates just as mitochondria mutated, Gallionella mutated to become our mitochondria. COVID-19 is mutated to become our new normal. And so we're at a turning point. Oxygenated evolution, COVID-19 happy hypoxia. What do you think? If there's no oxygen on the planet, this is what's going to rule. And even though the oxygenated people are hanging in there, they're going to fall under. What do we want? the big question, and we need to ponder it very carefully. Without an oxygenated evolution, I don't think we would have J.S. Bach. Have you heard the music of today's composers? It's very repetitive. It has length, but it doesn't have depth in some instances. Yeah. Are we going to become the new naked mole rat? So we're at a turning point with this virus. I believe that manganese can step in and at least go head to head with this virus. Maybe that's the best way to do it. Go head to head with it. Mitochondria bolstered. Here comes COVID. Who wins? Mitochondria with its DNA, atomic level fuel. It packs a punch. COVID's a squatter. COVID's a pillages. Comes in with with a cheap stick and finds a mitochondria that's sick and weak. Our mitochondria are sick and weak from low oxygen and not really understanding how to, keep them bolstered. It's very important science to understand and try to keep up with. I'm doing the best I can to share my knowledge with you. And we will see. I wish you well. Breathe on. Watch the Proaxia in your health videos and start your own practice. See where it takes you. And let me know. Take care. Bye.